Phone operators. From those who take 911 calls to dispatch operators, they answer that phone call when things are usually at their most extreme, at their most desperate. What's the scariest and most frightening phone call they've had to answer? A man on the verge of suicide, or someone in the horrific process of being robbed? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and let's listen to 5 true scariest phone operator stories. They're real.
Thank God it's not my job. I hit that. The hardest one I had to come across was one night. I was working alone. My partner just went home an hour early. I get a call from a man who told me his 16-year-old daughter came home, beat up, dirty, and bloody. She didn't remember what happened, but had, I hit that, carved into her stomach from a knife. I could hear an older brother screaming in the background, "Who did that to you?" It still gives me the chills. The man. You probably want a serious tag on this. I was working at a hospital, in the emergency department, when I was fresh out of college, and everything there felt insane and exciting. I was just answering phones and helping doctors put orders in the computer, fill out charts and stuff, but I got barely through the 12-hour shift without feeling exhausted, and shifts would often overrun. One particular busy shift, my relief was a couple hours late, and the place was just hopping. People yelling in the halls, cops fighting guys in handcuffs in front of the desk, patients in chairs lined up against the walls, just pandemonium. The phone rang and I autopilot answered it saying, "ER," to a man almost imperceptibly saying, "I'm going to do it. Can you help me?" Then the Hollywood sound of a gun slide going shunk. In my mind, the whole place stopped still, silent around me, and I just started talking to him. It took me a few minutes to kind of gain my composure and flag someone down to tell them what was happening. But I was on the phone with him for a solid 90 minutes before he finally said, "Someone's at the door." The whole time he didn't tell me why he was going to do it. Just, I did something. He refused to let me put him on the phone with one of the officers or mental health professionals who were all happy to help. He just said he needed to die. He claimed he put the gun down pretty early on, but I was so worried what would happen when the cops showed up. But he didn't hang up. Just set the phone down and answered the door and went with them. It was one of my first, most memorable emergency memories, partly because I felt like I helped someone, however small a situation it was, and partly because the chaos continued around me in the ER. My boss came to ask how it was going briefly, like someone asked about the weather, and everything else just kept happening like before. But I was suddenly separated from it. It was a very surreal experience, and has heavily molded my career afterwards. Dead wife. I had a call where a man called and calmly said, "My wife has killed herself." Well, fucking dispatch didn't think it was a priority. One, because she was already dead, but I stayed on the phone with him anyways, because I just knew he would follow his wife. As we talked, it turned out he left that morning to go golfing, and everything was fine. When he got back home, he couldn't find his wife. She had gone out into the backyard, laid down on a sheet, got completely naked, and shot herself. The gun was still right there. I was so scared he'd kill himself too. But he didn't, and paramedics and deputies got there about 20 minutes after the call first came in. I got shit for staying on the phone with them because we were really busy and short-staffed. But I could not, in good faith, hang up with that guy. The drive. I work as both a 999 police call taker and a radio operator and dispatcher. The most harrowing job that I have dealt with only happened recently. I sent officers to a fear for welfare call following an abandoned 999 call, which had been a request for the police. We had a number of previous calls from the mobile number, which established this was a well-known address, which officers regularly attended, usually on domestic grounds. When we arrived, the original caller's partner had already left, and he expressed his concerns that his partner had been drinking and had driven away in his car. I passed the details of the cars to officers in the area in order to search for it. Immediately, an officer called up and said the car was behind him and that he would attempt to drop back and pull it over. As soon as the officer flashed his lights, the car made off at speed. No pursuit was authorized due to the officer not having the training to do so. The officer turned off his lights and called up to say he had lost sight of the car and where it was last seen headed. All in a matter of seconds, the officer calls up again to say he has rounded a corner and the car has crashed and there are bodies in the road. We tell the officers on scene to immediately commence CPR, to which he responded something to the effect of that there were not so much bodies in the road, but body parts. Meanwhile, the driver is upside down in the car, drifting in and out of consciousness. The most horrific thing about everything was the horror in the officer's voice on the radio. It was like you already knew what he was going to say as he was saying it. Breakfast. I never worked at 9/11, but I was an emergency dispatch operator for a security service. It was mostly false alarms, but one time I got a good one. Totally normal man at a bank who said he had set off the alarm by mistake and verified the account. Totally normal and friendly guy. I asked if there was anything else I could do for him, and he said, "Yeah, you can buy me breakfast." and then he laughed way too hard. I ended the call and then decided I should go through the special notes on his account. Turns out, he had asked that there be a special code for holdups, robberies. If he ever said, "You can buy me breakfast, lunch, or dinner," he was being held up and needed the police sent immediately. I was so damn close to moving on and missing it.